Hi, my name is Phuong Kubacki. I play Gail on The Bikeriders, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So I am so excited to be joined by today's guests. Today we're going to be talking all things the bike riders with Gail herself. Kubaki, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm
You're
excited.
very welcome. Yeah, I mean, really enjoyed the film. I'm excited to, there, I feel like we'll probably avoid, well, there might be some slight spoilers. So I'll just say that to kind of start things off, just as a heads up, guys. So make sure if you haven't seen the film, go out and watch it for sure. But I just wanted to start things off for you, just when you got cast for the role, what had you most excited about getting to play this character, but also, step into this world as well?
Yeah, when I first got cast for the film, I was first just really excited to work with Jeff. I really like his work, and he's such a nice person. So I was really, looking forward to working with him. And then, um, you know, of course, with the other actors that were attached at the time, I think it was Austin, Tom, and Jodie that I knew of. And then I know towards the end of the conversation, when Jeff had offered me the role, he was like, "Hey, are you open to doing something a little?" crazy with your hair. And I'm like, yeah. And I wasn't really sure what that was, but when I found out, I was all in.
Yeah, I mean, an incredible cast for the film and quite a few people, on the film, like overall as well. What was your relationship? Were you familiar at all with the culture of like bike riding or anything like that, or were you kind of coming into this thing not really being familiar with that at all?
I wasn't that familiar with this riding culture. My brother and his friends had a couple bikes like several years ago, so there was that, and I've ridden on the back of a bike here and there, but not as in depth as I would like to been.
So was it something like coming into the project, like once you got cast like in the role, was that something that you did some like research? I know the film is based off like a photo book. Did you pick that up, or what did you kind of do to prepare for the film?
Yeah, so I researched the photo book and I found, some images of Gail online, and they sent me some images of Gail and Brucey together, and then of course they sent us some voice recordings too because they wanted to get the accent pretty authentic as possible. So, I was able to spend time with that and kind of put together my idea of what I thought she would be like.
Speaking of, you mentioned your hair. I loved your hair for this film. I thought it came out like incredible. So can you just talk about the process of being, going through the transformation process of being turned into Gail for this film?
Yes, the hair and makeup was so fun. So when they sent me the photos, they were like, "Okay, we're gonna do a beehive." So before we started filming, we did a hair and makeup test, and I went in and they kind of, played around with what they were describing they wanted it to be, and they kind of made some adjustments to make sure that Jeff gave them the final approval of what they wanted it to be. But he wanted it like the first round of it was a lot more polished and too pretty, and he kept being like, "No, we gotta like." Maybe make it a little more grittier, a little more rough and tough. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, like he's like, less makeup. Like, we want it to be a little messy, like you've ridden on a bike, which totally makes sense. But I when I first saw what they did to begin with, I was like, oh, I love this. But when they started kind of like messing it up a little bit, I'm like, oh, this is great too. And it makes sense. It makes sense for Gail. So I really enjoyed it, and I feel like a lot of the viewers enjoyed it as well because that's probably the one thing that I get most comments on is the hair. Like, tell me about the hair. Like, how long did it take? It took a long time. I would say about an hour. Um, and then we wouldn't do it every day because it took so much time, and I was shooting multiple days a week. So if it were consecutive days, we would keep it for maybe 3 days in a row until it was like unbearable, and then we'd have to wash it and start over. But we would try to hang on to it as long as possible. So at the end of the day, to try and save it, we just kind of would smush it down like so that it would be okay when I went out in public. If I could maybe like fit it under a baseball cap. So if I went into, going in and out of my hotel, I wouldn't get too many looks.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the process of preserving it.
That's all. And so was it always was it always the beehive look that you like the hair, or was there any other iterations that they were like, oh, maybe we want to try this, and then they went to the beehive look, or
It was the beehive from the very beginning because the real Gail had the beehive, but it was just different variations of the beehive. Like it
gotcha.
was kind of polished and perfect, and then it kind of got grittier and messier. And if, you may not pay attention or have seen, but like at certain points, it's kind of small, but then like she starts to grow throughout the movie, and she's really tall, and then sometimes she's really small. So
I'm
um,
definitely gonna go back on my second watch and just pay attention to that now that you mentioned that specifically.
she's got a personality, so she
I
she
love
had
that.
different heights at different times.
I love those, those like little details. And so based off like a person, and so did you come up what her life was like before that she had actually met the Vandals? Did you come up with like any additional backstory for the character or
I didn't come up with the backstory, but what the things that we did know, right? We knew that she was a part of the Vandals because she was the girlfriend of Brucey.
Yep.
So and in the film they talk about she has a job, working here. So there's a lot of little bits and pieces that you can put together from that. But there was a lot of the description was she's tough, and I remember Jeff had mentioned like you're not afraid of some of the biker girls might be like, oh, you don't mess with me because my boyfriend's gonna get you. And he's like, but Gail, he's like, Gail's gonna get you. Like, you're
Gail
more
will
afraid
mess you
of
up?
me than you are my boyfriend because I'm tougher than him. And so I kept that in mind.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know you definitely don't want to mess with Gail. I got that vibe from her for sure. And what was just as far as like the first time that you really connected with your character, was it, putting on the costume? Was it reading the script? When did you really truly connect with Gail?
I would say I truly connected with her when we had everything together. So there was like the hair or the hair and makeup on one day and the wardrobe on a different day. But when we had the hair and makeup and the wardrobe together, first day of shooting, that's when it all kind of melded together for me. And I was like, she is here to party. So she was ready to go. And just it's the team that did the wardrobe and the hair and makeup. They're all so talented, and they spent a lot of time researching the book, the era, and pulling like the outfits and stuff. So they did a great job. They really
Oh
did.
no, for sure, and it's something that's so important too. I feel like the authenticity for this film. I'm not like a bike rider like myself, but watching the movie, you get the feeling that this is all like accurate, and it just kind of pulls you into that film because I feel like a lot of times if a movie doesn't pay attention to those details, it's something that's very easily can take you out of the mood and out of the film like altogether. And I was sucked right in from the beginning.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and so I mean there was a large cast, for the film. We talked about that, getting to work with a bunch of different, people here. What was it like just being part of a large ensemble like this and just working with everyone on the cast like overall?
It was amazing. This cast was so talented, and they were different, but they all kind of approached their characters in such a special way. So it was just really nice to sit back and watch. And a lot of times, like I had a lot of scenes where I was able to sit down and kind of enjoy the show and watch everybody else kind of do their things because there were so many. There was like a lot of people maybe in that scene or just where I was, like I had a perfect viewing point of what was going on. For example, there was the scene, there was the campfire scene. And
Yep.
so there were a couple really awesome conversations Michael Shannon had. He had a great monologue. So just sit back, enjoy the show. I took it as a master class in acting, and I was able to, mentally take some notes and kind of watch what people were doing and notice some things.
Now, had you gotten a chance, like prior to working on this, had you worked with anybody on the film prior to this, or was this kind of first time meeting almost everybody?
This was the first time meeting everybody. However, I actually shot a film just recently. It's called Eenie Meenie, and
Okay.
one of the actors, Carl Glusman, who was also on the Bike Riders, he played Corky, and he was in this film as well. And so we, ran into each other on this film, like, hey, like the Bike Riders. So
So
that
you
was really cool.
you worked on the bike riders, like so you met him on the bike riders first, and then you guys were doing the other film.
And then we just did another film. So, and
Yeah,
that's how we were like, oh, that's how we had met on the Bike Riders, and then we worked on it recently. But yes,
gotcha. Well, that's really cool. And you had talked about earlier too, working with Jeff Nichols. He directed the film. Can you just talk about working with him and what about him makes him stand out as a director, for you, where you've gotten to work with a number of different directors over your career?
Yeah, I really liked working with Jeff. He just has, he has such a wonderful vision, and he was really committed to it. He knew what he wanted, but he's also just really kind. And so he, speaks with the actors in a really compassionate way and just really makes you feel valued. So I would love to work with him again.
And this, I mean, this is a passion project for him, and you can just tell, like you said, a lot of the little details that are there in the film, and it was just really fun getting to hang out with these, these group of characters for the runtime of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think? So after, the events of the film, what do you think Gail went on to do, afterwards? Have you given that like any thought or?
I did I did try to do a little bit of research, but this was in the 60s, so I know that a lot of them are no longer with us.
Yeah.
So, wasn't able to meet with anybody, but in my mind, I think she probably stayed in the gang for a little while, and I was really hoping that, the script would change and they would give Gail a fight, but they didn't.
That would have been great.
I'm like, would that be cool if maybe Gail just kind of jumped in and but that's okay. But I hope that her and Brucey lived a long life together and they lived happily ever after.
I hope so as well. And just, yeah, reflecting on, working on the film, like overall, just what are some of your favorite memories, working on the project? Because I'm sure you probably got a bunch from, working with Jeff and just the cast, like overall.
Yeah, so I know we had just talked about the campfire scene, and it was one of those scenes that were an overnight shoot. So we started like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. because we wanted it to be nighttime. Jeff wanted it to be nighttime. So when you do those kinds of shoots, they can be really exhausting, and you're tired. But the performances that night were blowing everybody away. That it would just we had our jaws to the ground with how talented everybody was in that scene, and it just it kept us going and kept us really alive. Just seeing everybody's talent. So that was one thing that I really loved, and I just like there was another scene, and it was the fight with Tom and the actor Cappy, and that was a really cold day. It was so cold that day. I remember we were freezing, but again, so cool to watch just a great performance and a really fun fight scene, and that just kept everybody excited and those kinds of things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm watching this. This is so cool. So
Yeah,
yeah, just watching really cool performances in person, and that was another time where they spent a lot of time on the set, and they had the bikes out, and everybody was kind of like positioned in certain ways where you got to really showcase all the fashion and everything. And it was so fun.
no, and I totally get like where you're coming from as far as I've done like a couple, like I've done some like background on a couple films, and I've done some night shoots where, so I'm in New Hampshire, and I was working on a project that was in Rhode Island, and this was like middle of November. And yeah, we went until about like 2 or 3 in like the morning, I think it was, and it was so cold that night. I was very thankful. I thought, thinking ahead, I was like, I mean, I know how cold it can get like out here in New England. And I just wore a lot of layers underneath like what the costumes, ended up being, because when you're out there for hours, I mean, we would go in and out of like a holding like building, but yeah, it's no lie, especially doing like overnight, shoots. It can get tiring, but also depending on the weather, it can be a lot.
Oh yeah, that those two combined overnight and cold, like
Yeah.
with good for you for wearing those layers, it really makes a difference.
Yeah, for sure. I was like, if not, yeah, I probably would have. It's like you could very easily get like frostbite or something like that, especially if you're out there for that, amount of time. And just to wrap things up for you, is there anything else that you would like to say, about working on the film overall? And then what is next for you that I guess you could maybe like speak on? Because I know sometimes, you guys can't talk about certain projects, but what else is coming up for you, and just where can fans keep up to date with your work?
Yeah, I mean I had a ton of fun on this movie, and I know that the story. the story kind of ended a certain way, but if they ever wanted to do a sequel, I would totally be down.
That's that's awesome. Great to hear that you had like so much fun that you'd
So
be willing
much
to come
fun.
back.
Yeah, so much fun. Coming up for me, I have a movie called Eenie Meenie coming out next year. That's with Samara Weaving, Carl that I mentioned before, Randall Park, and Marshawn Lynch is in it as well. So,
Oh
and it's
wow.
a comedy. So we had a ton of fun on that one. That'll be on Hulu. Next month, I have an episode of Reasonable Doubt will also be on Hulu. And then another movie coming to theaters called Stream, and that will be next month as well. So a
Oh,
couple things now. Mhm.
is that the horror film? I feel like I just saw a trailer like the other day for it.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, no, I saw the trailer for it and just them kind of talking about like the gore, and it's from the team that did like Terrifier, right?
That's right. That's
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Thank
Yes.
you.
So that's definitely one that I'm a big like horror fan like myself. So that's one that I'll have an eye out for. But I mean, the other films, Eenie Meenie, like you mentioned, sounds like great cast with like pretty much all these like projects. You know, some of the people that you were just like mentioning there. Marshawn Lynch, he was, I don't know if you had gotten a chance to see the film, but he was hilarious in Bottoms. It was a
Oh,
comedy film that came out last year. And I had never seen him, act, outside of like the NFL. I hadn't seen him do anything prior to this, and he was really funny. So like I'll be looking forward to checking that out for sure.
yeah. We had our scenes were together, and we. It's so he's so funny. He we had so much fun, and I know we had run the scenes a couple times, and we're kind of like, so are you kind of want to be like word for word, or like what, how you want to? And he was like, I really like to improv. I was like, say Marshawn, Sayla. So we did a lot of improving, and I can't wait for people to see it because he's hilarious. The scene is hilarious, or the scene, multiple scenes are hilarious. So yeah,
Oh man, I like I said, I can't wait to check out these couple of projects. And then yeah, just as far as fans staying up to date with your work, Instagram. Do you have any other social media that fans can follow you on?
yeah. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm also on Facebook as well, and then X as well. So any of the things you can just search my name, or if you want to put it in the show notes, you can link them as well. I'll send them to you.
Yep, yeah, I'll make sure to put it down below in the description so that way people can give you a follow. And yeah, Pong, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. It was wonderful getting to talk to you about, the film, but also just, a little bit about your upcoming projects as well. And you're welcome back anytime in the future.
So well, thanks for having me. It was so great to meet you.
Great to meet you as well.
Hi, my name is Phuong Kubacki. I play Gail on The Bikeriders, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.